There we go, man. I swear it's always something. We're in the building, y'all. Good morning and welcome to everybody that's in here. Y'all know what to do. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can see me. We're back, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. I don't know where to start, but of course, we're going to start with our very esteemed, honored guest. Y'all know what time it is. We are going to be having a conversation with the Honorable Janelle King in here, and we're going to talk about what's going on with voting, what's happening with what the president's been saying about these interference, we'll say, from China. So much to talk about. We're going to talk about what's happening here in Georgia. We'll talk about 3EX as we talked about yesterday, and so much more. We'll get into what's happening with Nolan Wells. We got an update with the David case and many other topics. So we're going to get into it here shortly. But before I do, I have to say what's up to the people. Man, shout out to y'all for being in here. Thank you to everybody who's in the building, the amazing folks who make this show the amazing place that it is. And that's you. All right. Shout out to my beautiful, awesome, amazing Amy E is in the building. Y'all see her in there holding it down as always. Show her some love. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check her out on X as well. And I appreciate everybody who supports Amy over there too. We've got Virginia Wiley is in the building. Good morning to y'all. Johnny is up in here too. Shout out to Hank is in here as well. Thank y'all for being in the building. If you could, guys, you know, I absolutely beg and plead with you to do one thing on the show, and that's to like the video. Likes are free. It helps the channel continue to grow. Lets the algorithm know you guys are enjoying the show. It shares this live stream you're watching right now, the entire channel, and all the videos that we've ever made with more people. So thank you to everyone who's done that so far. I appreciate y'all. Also, if you're feeling extra generous, you can share the video as well. You click the share button. That will allow you to share the video to any social media platform you're on. And you can even share it via text message. And then last but not least, for those of you who are feeling super generous, you can send in a super chat. We don't ask for super chats, but I know a lot of y'all love to support the channel. And so many of you have been members for, as we had talked about yesterday, years upon years have been consistently supported. So thank y'all for that. If you want your voice to be heard, I will be displaying super chats on the screen and be reading those as we go throughout the show. All right. Shout out to Canada in the building. I see y'all. Good morning to everyone who's in here as well. Shout out to Taco Tuesday in the building. Good to see you, man. This is going to be a crazy show. I was reviewing some of the press conference that was going on at the NAACP with Ben Crump, and you guys are going to be interested to see what's happening there. But before we get into that, we've got to talk with, as I always say, my very esteemed and honored guest. Y'all give it up in the building for Janelle King. Thank you so much for stopping by the show. Good to see you this morning.
Absolutely. It's good to see you.
I appreciate it. Hopefully, as we talked about earlier, you've been having a great summer. I know you've been spending a little time working, but we're glad that you took some time to hang out with us this morning.
Oh, yeah. And the summer's not over. So, yeah, we intend to continue this at least till September.
Yeah.
We stop around Memorial Day. Like that's our is it Memorial Day or Labor Day? One of those that's in September. That's when we typically, take our break or go back to work.
Oh, yeah. Well, you never take any days off. Neither one of y'all do. I know that because we seen you out there working, and we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to the work that you've been doing specifically with the state election board and just what's going on with elections across the state and across the nation in general. So we'll get into it. I know the biggest thing I wanted to talk about with you was the can kicking. I've talked about this ad nauseum, and I was really hopeful and really excited for what was going to happen between the House and the Senate. And I thought maybe something would get done here in Georgia. But as we both know, as I used the analogy on the last show, I mean, they threw that can up in the air, took a shotgun and blasted that thing into 2028. So
Bruce Lee did all the way across.
Gone. Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, all of them. So I'm tired of talking about it, Janelle. I'm exhausted at this point. I'd love to know your thoughts on 3EX and what happened during this recent special session.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. It's funny. I've been diving into the Federalist Papers, and I just really love those papers because it gives you the behind the scenes as to why our country is formed the way it's formed. And what I've witnessed, and even after speaking with several legislators, what I've witnessed is that we just have a contingent of people who care more about their status, who care more about their titles, their invites, and all the things, more so than doing the will of the people. And I don't know how this is going to play out. I've gotten calls from folks who just feel as though they are tired. Um, I, I'm more concerned about, or I shouldn't say I'm concerned. I should just say that I'm paying attention to what's going to happen in the midterm because I don't think that the Democrats have the momentum they think they have, but
I
I do
agree.
think that the Republicans are certainly, we are weakened because of the lack of action. And they're just people who feel like, what's the point? You know, what's the point of having a majority? What's the point of being in these seats if you're not going to do the will of the people? So, that right there is what I'm watching. I always say that the group or the faction of voters that you have to pay attention to more than anybody else is the evangelicals, because
Mm,
evangelical voters do not feel obligated to any particular party. They do not feel obligated to go vote. What they believe is that I support those who support the Bible. And the moment you start stepping away from that, despite whatever side of the aisle you're on,
mm.
that's when evangelicals start to feel like, oh, it's okay. I'll continue just trusting God and we'll just let the chips fall as they may.
Oh
So
my God.
that's what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. And it's true, we do trust God more than man or the government. So, there's a comfort in that, knowing that God will take care of you. So that's the voting block that I'm paying attention to.
Well, I mean, faith without works is also dead again. So we do have a duty. The Bible talks about Jesus himself said, give to Caesar what's Caesar's and give to God what's God, right? I don't want to start preaching, but hey, we still have a duty in here. And I think that's one of the most important things. And from even my personal experience that I've seen is that people get complacent. And as you said, they say, you know what? God's got it. No, guys, he put us here for a reason. So we have a lot of work to do.
Right. Well, you gotta, I see it from both perspectives.
Mhm.
I was talking to a legislator, and when she was speaking with me, her entire tone was, vote for me so we keep the majority.
Mm,
And I said, well, what about doing what you said you were going to do? Where does that come in? And so this obligation to support people who lie to you repeatedly is also something that we have to question. And
mhm.
so I think that we are going to see a very interesting midterm. I ultimately, Republicans tend to just bite the bullet and go and just do their duty,
Right.
but I do believe that we are in unprecedented times right now.
So speaking specifically to what the special session found about elections moving forward, we talked with Greg Dolezal yesterday, and there were some highlights and some good things that happened with 3EX. But overall, as we both know, it seems like there's been even more of a delay and the kicking the can down the road, or the pushing of this deadline, this law that was signed by the
Mhm.
governor. So
Yeah.
when it comes to moving forward, let's say we go into November, what are some things you're seeing that maybe uh, are in the back of mind for the state election board, and what elections are going to look like moving forward now that 3X is in place?
Yeah, so not speaking for the entire board, but just
Mhm.
as the vice chair of the board, I will say that for me, I'm paying attention to cases.
Yeah.
Whenever a case comes in that has election fraud associated with it, we need to pay attention to it. The biggest highlight, I'm assuming we'll come back to what the President Trump said, but
Mhm.
the biggest takeaway, I should say, for me, is that all the things that the president revealed that was happening in our elections, they impact your local elections way more than they impact any other election. Prime
Right.
example, there was a city council race that was in the city of College Park here in Georgia. And this was a few years ago, but the gentleman who ran, he lost by 12 votes. I was just
Wow.
texting with someone else who lost their council seat by 2 votes. I mean, these are our
Sheesh.
local races gets very, very tight. And so when you have individuals who are non-citizens voting, when you have people voting in the wrong county, even if you live in one county and you're crossing over, you are impacting the races in ways in which you have no idea. And in some cases, these people stay in seats for decades. And if they acquired that seat fraudulently because of individuals, whether knowing or unknowing, then what do we do at this point, right? So
Hmm.
it's decisions that are being made. And I do see that there is a lack of duty that is happening amongst the voters, not necessarily just going to vote, but we have a duty to vet candidates. We have a duty to demand that there are primaries, that have debates. We have a duty to ensure that what people are saying is what they do. And if
Mm.
they don't do it, we got to vote them out.
Yep.
However, when you have issues like what the president unveiled between with China, the non-citizens, and just all this interference, then how can I do my duty? How do I know, even if I am that voter that's vetting, that's actually doing the research, that's out there, voting for the right people? But then when you have to fight this giant of an issue as far as interference, it's almost like, well, what is the point? And then when you start saying things like that, we are in a dangerous place, because that's when how banana republics rise. That's
Mhm.
how people just starting to feel like I'm going to be a vigilante and I'm going to take matters into my own hands. These are how bad things happen. This is how a first world country turns into a third world country overnight. So we are. I wish that there was more of an emphasis on why it's important to pay attention to these interferences, particularly when it comes to local elections.
Yeah, and that's such a great point because looking at, I guess we could call it one of the plus sides to 3EX. It seems like there are some things in place now to where if a margin's close and maybe a major race, that we have some accountability and auditing there. But moving forward with a lot of local races, as you said, a lot of the smaller races, there really isn't anything now in place to where we can look and see if they're even accurate or not. We just have to rely on, hey, hopefully they're registered and went to the right precinct or they're in the right county.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard two cases as being on the board that was quite disturbing.
Mm.
I mean, we had the Oakwood case, and in both of these instances, we have an election where the person who seemingly won, we have no idea if they won legitimately,
Yeah.
because there were folks that voted that weren't supposed to, and then they found out after the fact, and then we're past the time of redoing the election. So now here we are looking at cases that are a couple of years old. People have been sitting in seats, and I mean, in both instances, I was just sitting there literally in awe, because I'm like, this is so unfair. The
Hmm.
amount of time, energy, I mean, I've been on the trail with my husband. The amount of time, energy, money, resources you put into it, and then for the outcome to not be correct is frustrating at the very least.
Yeah.
So I think as a board, what I would like to see is all of us continue to focus in on these cases. But going into the midterms, there are a few rules on the table, some of which I support, some I don't. But most importantly, I want to make sure that our counties are supported, that they have what they need to administer elections in the efficient way, as well as the effective way and transparent way.
Yeah. Moving forward with this bill being in place with 3X, are there some things that you see could potentially be a benefit just when it comes to the overall voting process moving into November, let's say?
Well, I mean, like one of the things I was looking at is what you mentioned, which was, the auditing aspect of it. I
Yeah.
do think that's good, but
Yeah.
I would prefer the auditing to be be across the board.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I don't think that they were completely disregarding everything, but I'm just not happy with it. So I don't have a lot of positive things to say. I
Yeah.
want people to do what they said they were going to do. The
Yeah.
biggest concern I have is that we're making laws, right, that we expect people to abide by. So every time a legislator says, okay, this is a new law, we expect you to abide by it.
Yeah.
But now we have our own leaders saying, oh, nope, nope, nope. If I don't
Just
think I'm
kidding.
ready to abide by it, right, I'm just going to change it. I'll just kick the date down. Can nobody out here do that in no other scenario?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what message are we sending when we can just run back, waste money, because this could have been done in January, but we close a session, then reopen it I mean, it's expensive, okay?
Yeah.
Once you reopen the session, now we open it to do what? To talk about what we talked about in January? and then to do the same thing that we should have done. It's like, were you scared to do it in January? But no, the problem is that everybody's protecting their seats. Everybody cares more about their future aspirations than they do the people. And until that is corrected, we will continue to see this type of behavior and these actions.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see just in general before we move on to the entire situation with what the president said. This really, when it comes to being a partisan issue, I'm trying to understand why we're still at this point to where there's so many that are denying the issues that happen with elections, specifically in Fulton County, specifically in Georgia. And you can even look at other states, like we've talked about Michigan, we talked about California, we talked about New York. And I'm still trying to figure out in our own state, while with all the history we have, we're still looking at this as a Trump issue or a Republican issue. That's the most frustrating part to me.
I know, like when I look at all the cases that come before me, I feel like it's virtually impossible to literally like hand pick the cases where you're like, oh, this is Republican or Democrat. Like you've seen our meetings. I mean, it's just like people just come and you really don't know. And so what I'm noticing though is that we have a lack of courage. You know, at the end of the day, everybody wants to be a part of a clique. And if the majority is saying nothing happens, regardless of whether they do their own research, then nothing happened. And let me tell you, I'm on social media from time to time, and I'm looking, and I know we were talking earlier about the comments and like me trying to stay out of the comments, but I was looking at the comments on one of my husband's posts, and someone was just like, what are you talking about? There aren't any illegals voting in our elections. And I'm sitting over here thinking, they're talking to a man who's married to the vice chair of a state election board. Common sense should have said, well, maybe I should do a little research before I say that. But the part that's most sad is that when I said, look, go to this particular board meeting. It's all on YouTube and go look for yourself. We sent a lady to the AG's office who voted 23 times in our elections.
I remember.
And she's not a citizen. So, but you think they did that? Of course not. They disappear into thin air and act as if nothing's happened. So what we're dealing with are a lack of courage and people who just don't know how to stand on their own. And so this is not a partisan issue. Elections is not a partisan issue. We have, when a non-citizen votes in an election, it doesn't matter whether they're voting Democrat or Republican. It still is canceling out another person who can vote legally, is canceling out their vote, regardless of the party. So we got to just take it seriously for what it is. But right now, everything's so tribal that I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take for others to see it. I think maybe when the tables turn, you know, let's see what happens in this midterm. If Democrats lose and they feel like, oh, we had a lot of people that came out to vote, I don't understand why I'm losing. I might start seeing some Democrats say, maybe there is something to this.
Oh, we've already seen it. We've already seen it. You heard Jasmine Crockett. She said, oh my gosh, I can't believe I lost. Election interference. I don't know what's going on. So she's probably about to flip like Tiffany Henyard over there. So it's happening already. And I think to say it's a good thing would be weird, but it's just basic common sense that we can look and see the issues, the simple issues, whether you want to say the margin is small or the margin is large. If XYZ person from XYZ country is canceling out my vote, just one vote, that's an issue to me, and it should be an issue to everyone involved. But again, we're not at that point yet, which that brings me, speaking of social media and speaking of the president of the United States, shortly after his speech on all these documents that were released, a wise woman said this on social media. Well, maybe now people will stop saying there are no non-citizen votings in our elections. And that wise woman, obviously, I'm speaking to right now. I'd love to know your thoughts and what went through your mind when you heard the speech from the president on just elections and China's involvement and what's happened in Michigan, and how you saw what was said there in relation to what's happening with voting right now.
Yeah, so I was not surprised with anything or by anything that the president said. You know,
Yeah.
I've seen it all. I hoped that they would have shared some other things that I've seen, as far as double voting, double scannings, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I also understand that as a whole, the American people, in my opinion, are just not prepared for the full truth. Right? It's like you can't handle the truth. It's
Yep.
like you want it. Everybody thinks they want it, but once you have it, now there's a responsibility. And I don't think people want to pick up that responsibility in order to have to maintain this and keep it going, or try to, find out, get to the end of it. So what I noticed is that the president gave a very high level speech. It was very quick, it was very direct.
Yeah.
I know there are some that feel like, they wish they had said something else. When I listened to the MS Now, which I call them the BS now, but when I listened to them,
That's awesome.
I knew that they were going to try to finagle their way out of this, right? And it
Hmm.
was fascinating is that their argument was, well, the president didn't say that his election was stolen. But these are the same people that say we need to move on and not look back and not focus on 2020. So it's just like, when you listen to all the contradictory behavior and speech, then you understand how people get so convoluted and
Yeah.
why the president has to go high level, because there's just so much so much minutia. So, but the thing that stood out to me the most, as you showed in my tweet, was the non-citizens part.
Yeah.
That is something that is extremely concerning to me. When I have non-citizens come before our board and they are literally free of any fear of retribution. There's like no, I mean, a lot of times it just seems like they're just like, oh well, yeah, like the lady you saw. I mean, yeah, I just voted with my husband. I mean,
Yep.
there's no respect for our election process, although they come from countries where they have a very similar rule, which is non-citizens can't vote in their elections.
Right.
So, when you have this, that's a problem for me. When I talk to, those at Fulton County, the head of Fulton County's elections, and I ask the question of, do you do any training? Do you know what a driver's license looks like that has the mark on it that this is a non-citizen? And when we're told that they don't train on it, or some of them don't even know what the driver's license looks like, I
Hmm.
mean, this is very concerning. We have here in Georgia a Department of Driver Services system where, as long as if you get any type of ID, you're registered to vote. I mean, you have to find this little tiny print on the paper to opt out, which makes
Terrible.
no sense to me. So, I mean, I have felons who are coming before us and they are pleading their case, saying, I'm so sorry. I did not know that I registered to vote, because that's a felony. And we're
Crazy.
like talking about third strikes for some people. This is
Hmm.
insane. So I wish that, and my hope is that the American people will rally behind their country, protect our country,
Yeah.
because without it, we don't have anywhere else to go. There's nowhere else on this earth that has a country like America. So I think that's the part that stood out to me the most, the part that mattered to me the most, which all ties into China interfering and all that too. But it's an open door when you have bloated voter rolls, when you have dead people on your voter rolls, when you have individuals who are non-citizens. So I have to do a shameless plug and encourage people to go check out Ellie, ELLY,
Yeah.
because I think this is a great resource. But check it out. Get a sign up, get you a login, look at your own data, election data, to make sure it's right. And I just feel like we've got to just start cleaning this up, and I'm just doing my part.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about Ellie, because it's something we haven't really discussed on the show as much. We've heard about it in the board meetings. We talked about Ellie, we talked about Eric, but Ellie being the one right now, what in your opinion makes it such a valuable resource, and you've seen that's performed better than maybe others that are out there?
Well, I'm going to tell you, when I'm hearing from election workers who have decided to start using it, What it does is it puts all the information you need to verify if someone should be on the voter rolls. It kind of puts it all in one place, right? So if
Hmm.
you log on, you have obituaries, you have documents, tax documents, just all kinds of things that will allow the election workers to not have to piecemeal everything to or do a
Right.
deep investigation on each individual person. It's all in one spot. And if the information is wrong, they have a great customer service where you can reach out. They're able to help. The best part about Ellie is that it streamlines this process for our election workers because we have to be honest, cleaning up the voter rolls is a very tedious job.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of time. It's very time consuming. And when you have election workers that are already overworked, underpaid in a lot of ways, and they are already spending, so much time working on other things, it does feel very daunting to have to go in and tediously clean up the voter rolls, right? So once they get a complaint with Ellie, they can then just put that person in there. They can look at a lot of different documents in one place, and then
Right.
that way it just slow down the process. So I'm just encouraging it because it just helps us all to help our election officials do their job as well.
Yeah. And with that same thought, what are some conversations or is there any movement that's being had when it comes to the voter rolls or the registrations and elections offices around the state, trying to work on getting those things ironed out? I know we've heard about it a lot in Fulton County, and they said they're working on getting the numbers down, but that's a big topic of conversation, especially here in Georgia.
Yeah, so we have two investigators, Larry and Jason, that's with the SEB, and they are doing a phenomenal job. What I love about what they're doing is that they are going to count the different counties. They are showing them their own voter rolls. They
Nice.
are showing them where, and they're using Ellie in a lot of cases because it's just, like I said, easier, but they're showing them how where they need to clean up some things, right? And what I love about it is was something that I always wanted for the SEB, which was hard to do because the narratives were starting to be written immediately. But I always wanted the state election board to not just be, like my executive director says, the hammer, but I want us to also be a resource. I
Right.
want us to be someone you can go to, not when you're coming to us after you've already did the wrong. I want you to come before us beforehand. And we are seeing some counties that are really doing some good work. I've heard some good things about Chatham County, which I think we'll talk about more in August, but that
Okay.
are looking at this, and they really are. And here's the thing, in a lot of cases, our election officials, our election staff in these counties, they are people who literally get up every day and just go to work. These folks are
Yeah.
not as politically involved as we all are. They do
Yeah.
not care. They're just going to work, right? So when you have individuals who are doing the job right, they're working hard, they're doing their best, and we have some cool counties that are doing a good job.
Mm.
When you do see that, I think we should highlight it. I think we should praise them. We should support them. But we are seeing counties starting to clean up their voter rolls. And unfortunately, I wish it was heavier on the state side, but we'll take it however we can get it. And if we got to go county by county, we will.
Yeah. And is there anything else that we can do just as citizens, along with Ellie, just to help mitigate this process somehow? Because we know there's still ballots that fly around during election season a lot. There's still people who are, oh, God forbid, in other cases, voting for someone else that may no longer be with us or isn't able to vote. So is there anything else that we can do in this instance to just better equip ourselves going into November?
Yeah, it's funny you said that because I've been mulling over something, and this is the first time I'm saying it out loud, but I have been mulling over an idea of doing more community events as the SEB to educate
Yeah.
people on how, election fraud occurs and letting them know the process of the election. Most people don't know what happens to their ballot once they cast it. And
Mm.
so, and I something else I've noticed is that the amount of people who don't know that they have 30 days to change their voter registration before they're in violation, once they move, even if you move one county over, the amount of people who don't know that is extremely high. So
Yeah.
I would love it if we could, if the public was more educated on the small things, right? Like that, like changing your address, your voter registration, checking your my voter page to see where you are supposed to vote, what happened, what district you're in. I mean, I swear, I my districts changed 3 times, right? Like I was in the 6th district, and they threw me into the 7th district. And last night, my husband was like, "Oh, I think we're still in the 6th," and then I'm like, "No, I don't think so." And then
Yeah.
we check, we're back in the 7th. So it's like, checking to see where what's happened with redistricting. But most importantly, I do think that we can do better, even as a state election board, with educating the public, and which we try to do at meetings, but educating the public on the small things. So just know the little things that can cause a disruption in our election process as an individual is key.
Yeah, that's actually a great thought. If you the state election board wants to put something together, I'd be happy to host. I'll volunteer myself. And there, we have a great resource of people that could speak at maybe a community event like that, like the Jasons, like the Garlands. I mean, even yourself, Dr. Johnson's available. So I think that
Yeah.
would be something that would be amazing and much needed, especially if it's something you could do either by county or, just in Georgia in general. So it's
Yeah.
an interesting thought. I think that would be that might be something we have to think about and talk about at a later time.
Oh,
But
I would love it if you'd be involved. That would be
yeah,
really cool. And I would love to see a lot of young people, that
yeah,
will show up and participate, because it's up to us. Like, I mean, our senior friends and family, unfortunately, it won't be here forever, and
yeah,
like us. But as we are getting older and we have a younger generation coming up behind us, we have to educate and we have to explain and prepare. I'm always looking for, even in my own personal life, I feel like I have to have a group of young women that I'm mentoring, because I'm like, who will
yeah.
succeed? I mean, when people ask, "Hey, Janelle, can someone go on TV? Can someone do this?" Or, I'm always looking for people that I'm like, this is the person,
Yeah.
right? I actually recommended you, by the way, to something.
Oh,
So,
thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, there's a lot of work to be done. It's going to take all of us to do it. I know you know that better than anyone. So it's great to see, the thought process behind that, and that you're just always so involved in what's happening. And interestingly enough, a lot of changes going on with the board as well. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but
mhm.
can you give us an idea of, what you guys are thinking going into this meeting that you said is very, very important, people should pay attention to in August, and also moving forward into November as well?
Yeah, so we have it looks very different, our board. When I
Yeah.
came on, it was myself, Dr. Jan, Rick Jeffries, Sarah, and John. And
Mhm.
so now it's just myself, Sarah, and John are the only three remaining of the original five.
Yeah.
So we have Sally Grubbs, and we also have Carolyn Roddy, who has replaced Dr. Jan. What I love about Carolyn is she's a lawyer,
Yeah.
and or attorney, I should say, and she brings that legal mind to the scene and to the board. And one of the things she's working on, which I'm not going to go in detail because it'll come up in August, but there's
Yeah.
something she's working on that I absolutely love, and
Oh,
it
that's
has a
exciting.
legal side to it. But it's very, very cool. And so what I feel is that, our original board was there for a time, and
Hmm.
now we're here. We have this new board, and I'm excited to see what comes from it. Obviously, we're working out some kinks, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to what Carolyn has to present, and how that's going to play into this state election board and the growth of it. But we are at a great position. I
That's
have to
awesome.
shout out our executive director, James Mills. When we hired him, we had, I think it was like 2 employees, if that, and maybe including him. And
Yeah.
so, and the
Wow.
budget was a little crazy. And so, as a result, though, he has built the office out in a way where we are a full agency now.
That's
We
awesome.
are accepting complaints. We have investigators working those complaints. We have trackers. Like, I mean, it's just so good. And I'm so excited about that. And if I haven't done anything, I'm grateful to have been a part of building out this agency for the future.
Yeah, and I know I appreciate the work that you've been doing for the people as well. We've seen it play out in so many ways, and obviously that's one of the reason you are now the vice chair, which is exciting to see as well. So looking forward to that meeting going into August and hearing from some of the new members for the first time for me anyway. So that'll be interesting. Well,
Absolutely.
Is there anything you want to leave the people with before I let you get out of here? I know we covered a lot.
Yeah. No, as always, just do your duty. Do your duty. Research. Keep fighting. I was talking to my husband about the Boston Massacre, right? And I said, there were 70 men who went out there and stood in front of the hundreds and hundreds of British soldiers. And they basically said, I will die here with the hope, because of the hope of it being better. I will die today because I refuse to bow to the king. And I want us as citizens to understand that thanks to them, we are not in a position where we have to put our lives on the line in a lot of cases, but we are in a position where we have to put our integrity on the line and decide to do what is right. And that's what I want us to do. 8 people died during that massacre, one of which was a Black man. So I like to always point that out because people act like Black folk was not a part of the American Revolution, but we were. So, but that being said, out of those people who passed away, they didn't see the war. They didn't see anything. They have no clue that we are 250 years later and we're still standing. So sometimes you just have to stand in the moment and do what's right in that moment without knowing what the reward will come as far as later. But I just want to encourage folks to just continue to do their duty and take it seriously.
Well, Janelle, thank you as always for your service. I appreciate all the energy and excitement and frustration even that you bring sometimes to what's going on in our state elections. You're such a valuable asset to the state of Georgia and to all the citizens here. So thank you for the work that you put in and the passion you give to just getting things done the right way. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you, Eric. You are an integral part of our media source. So thank you.
Well, listen, hey, as you said, if another 50 years go by and I have to die saying I tried, we're going to do it. So we'll be here.
We'll do it.
I appreciate you, Janelle. Take care. Tell Kelvin we said what's up. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. Same to Amy.
All right. We'll do. Appreciate you.
All right. Bye.
All right, y'all give it up to Janelle King, man. Such an honor as always. I don't say that lightly. She just brings so much to the channel, so much to the community. And I know some of y'all Taco Tuesday get tired of the politics, but it's important because it affects your everyday life. And we don't want to be like all these stories we hear. We don't want to be respectfully like Coweta County, to where we've got these people in positions and we've got eminent domain happening. And we're like, oh, why? How did this happen? Because you sat there and said, who cares about that? I'm not going to listen to it. We don't want flock cameras being put up every block before we get out there and say, oh my gosh, I just got arrested, wrongfully arrested, because the flock camera spotted my car and they thought I was in the area that I wasn't. Or the flock camera saw me and they thought I was somebody and I wasn't that person. So guys, it's so much important. It goes so much more beyond, voting for this person, voting for that person. It's understanding how this process is going to affect each and every one of us. And it's important. So, I mean, hey, listen, I'm going to keep talking about it. So y'all just going to have to stick around and we'll figure out a way to make it work. Either way, shout out to Janelle King. Absolutely amazing. All right. I know a lot of y'all are here for the Nolan Wells update. Amy actually did a really nice breakdown of what's going on here. We're going to get into the full press conference shortly, but I want to read this breakdown before we get into it. If y'all haven't yet, thank you to everybody who's in here. Please, 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 please. I'm begging you, please like the video, guys. It's free. It's free. It takes less than a second and it really helps us out a lot. So thank you to everyone that's done that so far. I want to see what y'all are saying in here. Let me check the chat and see what everybody's saying, except for Taco Tuesday over there. Crying about politics. It's okay, Talk. We're gonna bring you to the light one day. All right. Hopefully it's before you have a story about what's happening in your county, like here in Fulton County. Let me see. Amy's up here. Shout out to Amy. Good to see all of y'all in the building. Never this media involvement. I don't know what that says. I like Janelle King. We need more like her in Georgia. And I agree. Whoever Katie came with has something to do with Nolan's death. or knows what happened. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. Let me see here. What else are y'all saying? Oh, Mary's in the building. Shout out to Mary. Good to see you in here. Douglas and Carol are on your on your ish list too. I see you. Taco Tuesday said, "Oh, the politics. I can't take it." Oh man, we should talk about it's the power. It's not politics. It's power, guys. We have so much power. These folks are working for us, which is always whenever someone comes up here and they're doing a good job, whether it's Greg Dolezal, Senator Greg Dolezal, whether it's Janelle King, these people in these offices, they work for us. So I thank them. I say, oh, thank you for the work that you do, because I appreciate it. And I know it affects me and it affects my family. So thank you. So they work for y'all, man. These are your employees. You just going to let your employees run around and do whatever they want to? What kind of business are y'all running over there? What kind of house are you running? Either way. All right, let's get into it. Y'all have waited long enough. Did I spell preliminary right? I think I did. Either way, it's time, guys. We are finally getting the preliminary results to Nolan Wells' autopsy. We're actually going to go to the press conference and hear from attorney Ben Crump himself, and we'll hear from a couple other people throughout this as well. Some interesting things during this press conference that happened. I'm not going to go through Ben Crump's entire speech because, to be honest, he sounded ridiculous in a lot of cases. So we'll actually get into where he starts to break down the autopsy, what was found, and what that potentially could mean. But first, Amy did a good job of giving us an overall summary as she's been following this case and reporting on it as well as to what happened during the press conference. So if you don't follow her, make sure you do that over on X at @AmyLee on X. She says this: we have an update on the Nolan Wells independent autopsy findings, and they have been revealed. Preliminary findings from an independent autopsy in the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells conducted by a former DC chief medical examiner, Roger Mitchell, were released by attorney Ben Crump during a press conference at the NAACP National Convention. Here's what they found: an unexplained red discoloration. The report revealed a focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue at the back of the head. So it was right, y'all can't see it. It was right in this area. So right here. All right. And it said, Amy says that the occipital region, Dr. Mitchell noted the cause remains undetermined. Now, there has been also missing neck and throat tissue. The throat and neck tissues were missing when the body was received for the independent examination, preventing a full assessment of the potential neck fractures or compression injuries. Again, that will be determined as well. The manner of death is pending still. The cause and manner of death are currently listed as undetermined as the investigation continues. I don't know this for certain. I feel like if it were drowning, that would be something pretty simple to see, and that would be noted by the medical examiner during this autopsy or this preliminary autopsy note. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Also, there are key questions that have been raised. Legal representatives and forensic experts emphasize the need to determine the conditions surrounding how Nolan Wells entered the water, specifically whether he was conscious or unconscious, or forced versus unforced. All right, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. Hear what Ben Crump had to say, and he's going to struggle through reading this autopsy report a little bit, but we're going to hang in there. Check it out.
For anybody out there who have information so we can get to the truth of what happened. I mean, any videos, and we've gotten so many videos, President Johnson, from that day from young people, and we want them to have the courage to come forward with the pictures, what you heard. I know people said there were a lot of disturbances out there. Some believe it involved Nolan. All of those things are important to get to the truth of what happened. The fact, Christine, that the United Cajun Navy are so forthcoming. The fact that they told us, we haven't heard from any of their local officials, that Nolan was found face down, fully clothed. Well, that's significant to us because the last time we saw him on the videos, he was without a shirt. So at what point did he put on a shirt? Somebody saw something. Somebody knows something. There were almost 300, 400 people. Somebody knows something.
And guys, that's a great point. I said this before. Who was the last person to leave? I mean, did Nolan go to the other side of the island and fall asleep and someone just was like, oh, well, there's a kid out there? You got to think someone had to have seen what happened to him. So again, that's another great point. We'll have to see. I forgot to mention this earlier before we started. A lot of this and some of the injuries, as y'all have been saying, are consistent with some things that happen with people who die this way. Now, we're not going to get to the details because I'm not a medical examiner. I'm just someone who's seen and studied a lot of these cases. So keep in mind, this doesn't necessarily mean that someone did this to him. I mean, even what happened around his neck could have happened after he was in the water, especially considering how long he was in the water for. So again, still a lot to be undetermined, but let's hear what Ben had to say.
So, Scott X, we're trying to just make sure people understand that you can call the Nolan Wells tip line at bencrump.com. We will gladly listen to you, take any information as we try to put together this puzzle of what happened to Nolan Wells. And today, we're going to add some more parts to this puzzle because my legal team and I, we stand for truth, no matter who it implicates or who it exonerates. We stand for justice, no matter who it convicts or it acquits. Yeah, and we stand for transparency.
Well, there aren't any suspects, Ben.
Because we got eyes that can see. And we don't need government officials having to narrate it for you and me. We can see it for ourselves. Transparency. That leads to the truth. The truth is the foundation for accountability and justice. And that's all we're seeking, as Christina Elmore said from day one. So with that, and Christina Elmore, if you all want to sit, we're about to go through this autopsy. I know it may be a little emotional. Thank you, President.
And I'm gonna be honest, guys, thank God for Amy, because she actually was able to get the medical examiner's report for us. So congratulations. You don't have to listen to Ben Crump read it. Now, I don't know if me reading it is any better, but listen, after talking that much smack, I'm going to try. So we're going to go away from the press conference for a minute, and we're going to actually look at the autopsy report. Again, Amy posted this over on X. Y'all make sure you follow her and show her some love, because she does a great job reporting on this and getting us information. She says, Nolan Wells independent autopsy report. Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Roger Mitchell held a press conference at the NAACP National Convention to share the preliminary findings from an independent autopsy on the death of 18-year-old Nolan Wells. So the head injury, obviously, the findings revealed an unexplained area of red discoloration in the soft tissue at the back of the head, the occipital region, as I mentioned back here, and also the neck tissue missing, cut throat, or critical throat, and neck tissues were absent when the body was delivered for the second exam, preventing researchers from checking for fractures or compression. Now, the cause and manner of death remains officially undetermined. We've still got an autopsy we're waiting from local law enforcement there as well. Let's go ahead and get into this. So Ben Crump posted this, and he says, here's the statement of the examination. This forensic pathologist was retained to perform a second autopsy examination on the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Nolan Xavier Wells, 18, black, male. Time of death, date of death, unknown. Second autopsy date was on July 10th. All right, so here's what the preliminary findings are. a focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, occipital region. And that is, they don't know where that came from. So again, could this have happened after he went into the water? If he drowned, again, this is all speculation. Did that happen after that point? Again, we don't know. The body received after the initial autopsy marked decomposition. The coronal incision of the scalp, the brain was removed. A Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso. Organs were removed, accompanying the body in the body cavity. All right, so everything was in place. The anterior internal neck structures absent, not received with the body. Interesting. Additional procedures performed during the second autopsy: bilateral facial dissection, no fractures, no evidence of deep tissue injury. Posterior head dissection, focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue area of the back of the head, occipital region, no fractures. Posterior neck dissection, no fractures, no evidence of deep tissue injury. Rib exposure dissection, no fractures, no evidence of deep tissue injury. Pelvic dissection, no fractures, no evidence of deep tissue injury. Subcutaneous and deep soft tissue dissection of the back, the buttocks, arms, and legs, no evidence of deep tissue injury. So remote healed scars. He had one on his left ankle, probably football. I don't know if he had surgery at some point. Also, histology was submitted. Toxicology has not been performed. I thought that was one of the first things that we were going to get. So that's interesting to see as well. Now, here's what the doctor had to say about these findings. The forensic pathologist identified several limitations during the second autopsy that create barriers to establishing a definitive cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells. The second autopsy performed on Nolan Wells revealed marked decomposition changes. Marked decomposition can obscure the presence of or absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy examination. For these reasons, additional dissection procedures not performed during the first autopsy examination were performed to rule out the potential blunt force injuries responsible for the death. So again, with this being said, I don't know if they're going to have the full results from the sheriff's department, the local sheriff's department, but it seems like their initial examination is done. So I'll be interested to see what they say from that, if there's going to be a press conference or if we'll hear something from the DA's office first. Either way, they say these procedures included facial dissection, posterior head and neck dissection, dissection of the ribs, the pelvic dissection, and subcutaneous and deep soft tissue dissection of the back, the buttocks, the arms, and the legs. There were no fractures or deep tissue injuries identified. All right. However, dissection on the back of the head during the layered posterior neck dissection revealed a 12 by 8 inch focal area of red discoloration in deep soft tissues overlaying the occipital bone. Again, for it to be a focused area, I think that's something that's interesting. 12 by 8. Again, that's a pretty big area. I mean, a pretty big area back here on the back of the neck. What could have happened? We'll have to wait and see. Now, it says there was deep soft tissues overlaying the occipital bone. The etiology of the findings is unclear, so they don't know what happened, basically. There are no lacerations of the overlaying skin, nor fractures of the underlying skin. These findings are inclusive for the post-mortem or the pre-mortem, injury due to both the extensive decomposition and the absence of associated injuries. This finding, however, is significant enough to be highlighted in the preliminary report for further investigation. It is important to reiterate that this finding could have been observed in the first autopsy because the posterior head and neck dissections were not, and it said it could not have, were not performed. So they didn't even look there, which is also interesting. Another limitation faced by this forensic pathologist was the absence of the anterior internal neck structures. The tracheal and laryngeal cartilages, thyroid horn, and hyoid bone were not received with the body. So why would that be the case? So all of this area they're saying was missing for some reason. Basically this front area was missing. It is assumed that the initial pathologists retained these structures for additional evaluation. The retention of the anterior neck structures during the initial autopsy is a common forensic pathology practice. Nevertheless, a posterior neck dissection performed without review of the anterior neck structures is incomplete. Therefore, this pathologist cannot rule out injury to the neck as a contributor or cause of death. Because the initial autopsy rightfully removed and dissected each organ, there are additional limitations. So basically saying, listen, somebody's already been here, guys. I'm going to try and do my best to see if I can see anything else. But because I wasn't there in the room, we didn't do this at the same time. Listen, there's stuff missing. Organs were moved around. It's going to be tough to determine what actually happened here. Now, even though this pathologist said that it's normal to keep the anterior portion of the neck, I'd be interested because with the bruising on the back of the neck, the posterior part of his neck, what happened there? And is there some relation to the front of the neck? The fact that this doctor wasn't even able to observe that yet, I think is interesting. All right. Because the initial autopsy rightfully removed and dissected each organ, there are additional limitations inherent in the second autopsy of Nolan Wells. The most significant of those limitations was the ability to directly observe the airways and the lungs for water. Are you serious? This is my first time reading this, guys. And directly observe the stomach for gastric contents. I'm going to read that again. The most significant of these limitations was the inability to directly observe the airways and lungs for water. So this medical examiner wasn't even able to determine if he drowned. It says, and directly observe the stomach for gastric contents. In addition, the original toxology results had not been received at the time of this report. Lastly, in cases where a death has occurred in or around a body of water with suspicion of drowning, it is important to confirm how the person entered the water. This information is especially important for those deaths of persons who can swim, as the case with Nolan Wells. At the time of this report, this forensic pathologist does not know the condition of Nolan Wells, i.e. his consciousness or unconsciousness, forced or unforced, before entering the water. Definitive circumstances of death are required to determine the manner of death. For these reasons, this pathologist cannot rule out if any intervening non-accidental factors contributed to or caused the death of Nolan Wells. With the following questions still outstanding, here's the questions that I'm sure a lot of us have, questions that I have from Dr. Mitchell. He says, what were the circumstances that led to Nolan Xavier Wells entering the water? Great question. Somebody had to have seen something, right? What was the body position when found? What we heard from the Cajun Navy, the gentleman that works for the Cajun Navy, it looked like when they found the body that it was face down. So again, allegedly. Was there water in the airway? That's what we all wanted to know. And the fact that Dr. Mitchell wasn't even able to determine that is extremely frustrating. And it's just sad that they shipped this poor boy's body all over the place just for the doctor to say, listen, I don't really have everything, so I don't know what to tell you guys. Dang, man. Is there any evidence of injuries to the anterior neck structures? We'll have to wait and see. Is there any evidence of intracranial hemorrhage, subdural or subcranial? We'll have to wait and see as well. What was the composition of the stomach contents? What are the toxicology report findings? The best classification for the case and manner of death for Nolan Wells is undetermined and pending investigation. All right. And here's the actual diagram or images you can see of what happened. The anterior part of this neck, it's gone. That's the front. And the the posterior section, you can see here, this is where the red discoloration was. And there was no other damages other than this area here. So that's what we have so far, guys. We got some more updates when it comes to Nolan Wells, and we're going to talk about what some of the people who were around him at the time that he disappeared have to say about this. First, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments in the chat. I think, to be honest, in my opinion, it's extremely disappointing preliminary autopsy, because essentially you have Dr. Mitchell saying, look, I found some bruising on the back of the neck. I don't know where that came from. I can't determine the cause of death because I don't have the anterior part of the neck to see what happened in relation to the posterior part of the neck. So that's a question. We also don't have the toxicology. I can't even look at the lungs to determine if there was water in there and if he drowned. Interesting stuff. Let me know what y'all think. All right, guys. So there's your nothing burger from Ben Crump and gang. Disappointing, but totally expected. I think that's probably the only way to put it. Universal translation, in other words, nobody is going to be arrested. That's not necessarily true, because again, this focused area of this bruising and red discoloration is important. That is something. So how that plays out in relation to the anterior part of the neck, we don't know. We're not going to know that for a while. We'll have to wait and see. Did they not ask for the neck and lungs for the second autopsy? Well, again, Ben Crump, and the family, even to be honest, are rushing to try and get answers. So they may have said, you know what, we just gonna go on without it. Dr. Mitchell probably called them and said, hey guys, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have the lungs. I can't even tell if he drowned or not. So it's gonna be tough to give you an answer there. I don't have the anterior portion of the neck, so I'm not gonna see if there's any relation to the posterior section of the neck where I found the red bruising, or the red discoloration. So again, do y'all want to move forward and you just want me to see what I can see? I'm most likely going to be undetermined because I don't have the full picture. I can't put all the puzzle pieces together. Ben Crump and them said, do it. Give us some answers. We just want something, which is what they said and preached this whole time. So it is what it is. Any defense will just argue that he drowned and possibly hit that area when he sunk down into the water. It's possible. It's possible, but is it likely? That's something we'll have to wait and see when we get the full picture. Ben Chump. Thanks, shots fired. Thank you to everybody who's in here. Y'all make sure you like the video on your way in. We got over 9,000 of y'all folks up in here. Thank you all for being here. We got more information about Nolan Wells. This isn't the end. I kind of want to listen to a little bit more of this press conference, but I know we're probably going to be scratching our eyes out if we have to listen to Ben Crump speak anymore. So I won't do that to y'all. I'll listen to it on my own time. Accurately, I can talk. Interpreting these findings depends heavily on the post-mortem interval, time since death, and the environment, as decomposition and animal activity can obscure evidence. Yes, I agree. I live on the water. This kind of accident happens multiple times a year. People slip on the way into the water, knock themselves out, or hit so hard they pass out right there and then end up drowning. I agree that it happens, but I mean, who knows, man? Like I said, was he passed out on the water? Was he sleeping? I mean, what happened? But again, I mean, where do people slip at? He was on the island, right? So what, did he slip on the log and he fell and he hit the back of his head on the log, and then he was close to the water and then he laid there. The tide came in, washed him out, and then washed him back in. I guess that's possible. Is it likely? I don't know. I don't know. How does one hang someone around thousands? Okay. Yeah. No, let's not do that. I'm not even gonna, nah. If somebody's saying that, I don't see that in this case. maybe drunk, fell off one of those boats. People jump off roofs of them out there. That's true. But again, whose boat was he on if that's the case? Somebody needs to answer some questions. So we've got a lot of questions, guys. Even more questions. Yeah, I hear you. I hear what y'all are saying. I think he was on another boat with a girl. Maybe. There were no lacerations. That's true as well. No cracks in the skull. That's a fair point. So again, it's unlikely that he was hit, in my opinion. But again, who knows, guys? Who knows? Do y'all want to see? Okay, let's do this. Let's take a survey. Put a 1 in the chat if you want to hear more of this press conference. Put a 2 in the chat if you're ready to move on to the other topics we have. Let me know what y'all think. Shout out to the gang. Again, if y'all haven't yet, please like the video. I have a feeling I know what you guys are going to say, so let me go ahead and get this next segment ready. Put a 1 in the chat if you want to hear more of what Ben Crump had to say. Put a 2 in there if you good. Oh, Christ Records is in here. What's up, man? Lewis said, no. I live on the water too. This is tragically boating life, not unusual. Yeah. Happens every single summer here at the boating mass parties. And that's a great point. People jumping off the boat and hitting themselves. Y'all have seen videos of it. I've done it. It hurts and it's scary. So yeah, it's 1. I'm a glutton for punishment. Oh man, yo, somebody get LS out of here. That was an interview. That was an interview with the news media. Yeah, it hurt. Oh man, it's one of the scariest things ever, especially if you start sliding. Yeah, we're gonna talk about, and we're gonna get into Andrew Tatum. Andrew Tatum. Who's Andrew Tatum? Brandon Tatum here in a second. I don't like this. We're actually going to talk about that next. All right, we'll move on. Sorry to the folks who wanted to hear Ben Crump. Listen, he loves to talk. So again, y'all can, if you want to find more information and want to hear or listen to Ben Crump, there's plenty of places you can find. Let's talk about it. Let me get a sip of water because I've been struggling this morning. My voice is cracking and all that. Thank y'all for hanging with us. I appreciate it. Yeah, the officer that dumb became a detective. Shout out to Officer Tatum. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. As many of you know, we just heard the results of the preliminary autopsy in the case of Nolan Xavier Wells. Ben Crump and the family are still asking for more information as we await what's going to come out in the toxicology and the full autopsy as well. Now, the preliminary autopsy was very disappointing. If you guys missed that other video where we covered it, make sure you check it out. The doctor basically said, listen, I don't have all the pieces to the puzzle here. We're missing the front portion of the neck. I don't know what's going on there. I'm missing the lungs, so I can't even look at the lungs and say if he drowned or not, which was disappointing. But they did find some red discoloration on the back of his neck on the soft tissue area, which could be something. It could be nothing. Well, it is something, obviously, and it most likely had a factor into what happened to Nolan Wells. What that is, we don't know. But Ben Crump is still searching for information and asked the community, asked the people for this. He says, if you have information, no matter how small it may seem, your voice could help bring this family closer to the answers they deserve. You can share more information confidentially with Ben Crump Law, and if you wish to remain anonymous, your request will be honored. Help Nolan's family seek answers. And he has a link to the website there. You can just go to bencrump.com if you've got anything there. Let's talk about Officer Tatum. Officer Tatum said he is sick of the people putting these narratives out there. He is sick of the people throwing these kids under the bus, calling people racist, saying that they had something to do with Nolan's death. And he actually put boots on the ground and went down there and interviewed some of the kids involved in this. Now, I must say, before we play this, I don't know who this kid's parents are. I don't know who is surrounding him and involved in his life. I think this is the stupidest thing you could possibly do. I think it doesn't make any sense to me. And I wish this kid would just worry about protecting himself. As much as I understand he loved Nolan, he wanted to be there for Nolan, he wants to speak out about it. I just think it's best, and it saves a lot of trouble if you just wait for things in the investigation to finish. But because he put it on the internet and he's out there and he's okay with sitting down with Brandon Tatum, I ain't mad at it, and we're going to hear what he had to say. Officer Tatum said this, exclusive, Nolan Wells' best friend, Warren Hudson, and they put his whole name out there. Good Lord. Breaks his silence to set the record straight about what really happened during their 4th of July trip to Horn Island. We're going to check out the full interview. I'm not going to play the whole thing because I want you guys to go and support Officer Tatum over on his platform. So I'll leave a link to the video in the description, but let's check out some of these clips and then we can start looking at what he said during this interview. Here we go.
Wyatt went and put his smaller boat in the water, which is the Palm Beach. He's an 18-foot Palm Beach, and I drove the boat from Fort Bayou boat launch to my buddy's grandparents' house, and that's where we all planned to meet up that day. And
you say we all, who you talking about? You, Nolan, and how many people are going to meet you guys there?
We had roughly 20 to 30 people coming on 3 separate boats with us. And so we were all following each other out there as one big group. You know, it wasn't just me and Nolan and a couple other of my buddies. There was 20 or 30 people spread out where we all met at the dock before, and then we departed to go to Horn Island. It wasn't just a couple of us. I mean, there were so many people, we had to split up between 3 boats, and we all left and all got there at the same time.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that's clear, because the statements that are out there made it appear that it was just you, Nolan, and probably 2 or 3 other guys, and y'all are the only ones that went out to this island.
And that's completely incorrect. I mean, Horn Island on the 4th of July is the most popular day to be on the water on, you know, throughout the entire Gulf Coast. I mean, everybody and their mom is on the water on 4th of July, you know. There's no telling. I mean, roughly probably 2 to 3, maybe even 4,000 people out there. There were boats lined up off the island. I mean, there was 3 rows of boats all the way until my vision ended, until I could see of people there was 1 row of boats, and then there was another row of boats, and then there was a 3rd row of boats.
Interesting. Okay, so that's just part of it. We got another clip here we're going to show you, and then we'll actually get into the full interview. Officer Tatum said this. Warren Hudson says he spoke with Nolan Wells several times on the 4th of July, and that the group mingled with hundreds of people while Nolan showed no obvious signs that anything was wrong. So here we go. Check this out.
Y'all pretty much having a good time. Just like anybody would imagine. 18-year-olds, probably 20-year-olds, college students, out on the island, women. You probably had alcohol, so y'all having a good time.
Yeah, of course.
And so where's Nolan in this? You know, you guys out there, the friend groups are out there, 3 boats full of people that came out there that seem to be the closest friend group.
Right.
Where's Nolan in this in comparison to where you and others are at?
Well, you know, I had a couple conversations with Nolan that day, and I talked to him and a couple of my other buddies. They are in a group. I was not focused on anyone solely, like looking and pointing anyone out, because there's so many people out there. I mean, I was talking to my friends that I haven't seen in a while from high school. I was talking from people I knew from college. I was talking to, you know, everybody my age, and even people older than us were, you know, over there. Like, I mean, it was just a regular thing. You know, we're all used to this. We've been out to the islands before. My buddies don't just go out to the island on 4th of July, but they go out, you know, every weekend. Like, I fish the islands. I don't just, you know, fish around Horn Island. I fish around Ship Island too. So I'm very familiar with the islands, and I feel like it was just a big, I talked to Nolan, and, you know, Nolan was drinking. Everybody was drinking, most of everybody. And I mean, Nolan seemed completely fine every time I talked to him. We had just regular conversations, and, you know, Nolan was making me laugh. I had a couple conversations with Nolan and Javon, Nolan and my buddy James, Nolan. And I mean, I could tell you, I mean, I talked to Nolan a couple times, but it wasn't like I was strictly sitting there talking to Nolan the whole day. I mean, there was hundreds of people I knew out there.
All right, so let's actually get into the full interview from Officer Tatum. Again, you can find it over on his YouTube channel and check that out. We're going to get into it, and I'll leave a link to the full interview for you guys here. Shout out to Officer Tatum for putting the boots on the ground and getting their work done.
So Warren, I'm going to ask you some very pointed questions. I mean, just straight out. The first thing I want to ask you is, did you kill Nolan? All right, Warren.
Dang.
We had a chance to get to know each other over the last 2 days. Went out to Horn Island, so I've had an opportunity to talk to you about a few things, and the things that you've told me have literally blown my mind. But the world haven't had a chance yet to hear your story, to hear Nolan's story through you, through his friend, and it's not just you; it's a bunch of y'all. But you know, some of the other guys were afraid because of the threats and the violence that's been threatened against their lives and all of the above. But you decided that you wanted to take this bold step and give a statement and, you know, get your side out here. And I want to start at the very beginning of all of this and ask you, what was your relationship like with Nolan? Who was he to you?
Nolan, I could describe Nolan in a million ways. I mean, Nolan was not just a best friend of me, but he was a brother. I grew up through elementary, middle school, high school, and even our freshman year of college. You know, we talked on the phone all the time. We were really close friends. And I mean, Nolan was like a brother to me. And Nolan lit up every room he walked in. He always had a smile on his face. He always had something good to say. I've never seen Nolan get in an argument with somebody and say bad things about someone. You know, there's a lot of people that talk crap nowadays, and Nolan was never that person. Sweetest soul ever. And I mean, I had a great relationship with Nolan. I've never got in an argument with Nolan. We were super close, and I've never said or will ever have anything bad to say about Nolan Wells.
Yeah, and you guys, you said you kind of grew up together. Mm-hmm. Did you know his mom, or how was that? Because I saw in the media where it appears that she may have said, at least I saw in part, that she said as if she didn't know any of you guys.
Right. Well, Nolan, a lot of the times was at like my house and at my buddy's house. We never went to Nolan's house and hung out. I mean, and my friend group's very, very tight knit. I mean, we hang out every day when we're back home from school. In high school, we hung out most weekdays and every day on the weekend. And I mean, we were never at Nolan's house, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I met his father, and I mean, in eighth grade, that's when Nolan and I like got really close. It was COVID year, and we were in class all year long together, me and a couple of my buddies, and Nolan and I just got super tight because we'd get a Waffle House once a week together, eat, and I mean, we were just super, super close. But his dad would swing by Waffle House, you know, and like, you know, hang out around us, but never. You know, I was never around Nolan's parents a lot, but I mean, that didn't change our relationship any. Nolan and I were still just as close, and he was just as close with my friends as, you know, anyone else. So.
And walk me through the day of 4th of July where you guys were all going out.
Right.
This seems like something that I would assume that may have occurred more than just this year.
Yeah, of course.
Was it something that you guys did more than just this year? It's a two-part question. I want to know, is it something that you guys typically did together? Did you hang out often in this fashion? And then I want you to then walk me through 4th of July this year when the incident happened.
Okay. You know, being from the Gulf Coast, there's boating and fishing is very, very popular. The 4th of July, every year,
makes sense.
My friends and I, or my family and I, are out on the water. I mean, that's the one day is guaranteed everybody's going out. And that's a known thing. Everybody's trying to get a ride out to Horn Island, or, you know, people go to Ship Island, but most of everybody from Ocean Springs and the Gulf Coast go to Horn Island. And, you know, we went last year. Nolan was on the boat with me last year, and he was, I mean, this was a common thing. My friends go on the boat when we're home. Very, very common. That's what we like to do. My friends like to fish also, and like to go on the boat, not just fishing, but like to go on the boat, like to go on sunset cruises, like to do it all, you know, on the water, you know? And, I mean, Nolan loved to do that too. I mean, he was not like he was just like everyone else in our friend group. He loved to go on the water and, you know, have a good time with the guys. And, that's what we did a lot. But 4th of July, everybody was out there. Like I said, like Nolan was always trying to go on the boat, trying to go out there with us. And he was always welcome to come. Nolan was always out there with us. And, but started 4th of July, you know, my buddies and I had talked about this week's upcoming, everybody's very, very excited for the 4th of July from down here. Like it's a big thing.
It's a big deal. Huh?
Very, very big deal. And, I actually stayed with Nolan that night at my buddy's house, and I woke up at
they had a sleepover.
my buddy's house, and we went to McDonald's, got food. Nolan was not with me. And, I went and got breakfast. I had my buddy's boat hooked up to my truck, and first I ran to my house, then I went to McDonald's and came back, and the boat was already hooked up to my truck. My buddy Wyatt and I went, and with my buddy, and we went, filled the top of the boat off, loaded it down with ice, and just got everything ready. Then Wyatt went and put his smaller boat in the water, which is the Palm Beach. He's an 18-foot Palm Beach, and I drove the boat from Fort Bayou boat launch to my buddy's grandparents' house, and that's where we all planned to meet up that day. And
you say we all, who are you talking about? You, Nolan, and how many people are going to meet you guys there?
We had roughly 20 to 30 people coming on 3 separate boats with us. And so we were all following each other out there as one big group. It wasn't just me and Nolan and a couple other of my buddies. There was 20 or 30 people spread out where we all met at the dock before, and then we departed to go to Horn Island. It wasn't just a couple of us. I mean, there were so many people. We had to split up between 3 boats, and we all left and all got there at the same time.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that's clear, because the statements that are out there made it appear that it was just you, Nolan, and probably 2 or 3 other guys, and y'all are the only ones that went out to this island.
And that's completely incorrect. I mean, Horn Island on the 4th of July is the most popular day to be on the water throughout the entire Gulf Coast. I mean, everybody and their mom is on the water on 4th of July, There's no telling. I mean, roughly probably 2 to 3, maybe even 4,000 people out there. There were boats lined up off the island. I mean, there was 3 rows of boats all the way until my vision ended, until I could see of people there was 1 row of boats, and then there was another row of boats, and then there was a 3rd row of boats.
Yeah.
I mean, there was people lined up all up and down the island to where, who knows? I mean, and that wasn't just, we were parked on the north side, on the west tip. It wasn't just there. I mean, there's tons of people packed out on the south side and on the east end and in the middle of the island. But just where we were, there was easily 1,000 people. It wasn't just us.
Let's go back a little bit. Mm-hmm. I want to go back to you guys at the dock.
I hope he asked.
Getting on the boat. You're saying there's multiple people, probably 20 or 30 people getting on 3 boats.
Right.
What boat were you on, and what boat was Nolan on?
Nolan was.
I hope he gets to the cell phone in this, because that's the part I want to know about. The biggest thing is the cell phone. I mean, I understand, okay, maybe they left him because he was talking to a girl, whatever, that's their story. What was up with the cell phone, him leaving the cell phone and his mother having to track the cell phone down? We might not hear it in part 1. This is just part 1. Officer Tatum's going to do a part 2, and we'll cover that once he gets through with this interview.
I was on Wyatt's 22 Triton. On the way out, I went with my buddy Bart, because we had a lot of friends from college coming down, and I called Bart that morning. I was like, hey man, can you take your boat out? And he was like, yeah, well, my dad decided not to go, and I'll take the boat, and I'll take you and your friends. Of course, he's a buddy of mine. And so Bart pulled up at the dock, and I rode out there with Bart and a lot of the girls that go to college with my friends and I, and Nolan rode out on the Triton, and then we had a Palm Beach, 18 Palm Beach. There was 4 guys on that. There was like 8 people on the Triton, and then there was 8 or 9 people on the Triton, and then there was the rest of the group, which was ranged from maybe 10 to 15 or 16 people on my buddy's tide line, which is 24 tide line.
And so you guys get on, and I know a little bit more than the audience do, because we went out there a little earlier, because I wanted to see exactly what the drive was like, what the dock was like, how far it is out there.
Of course.
But I want you to tell, the audience, like, what was this trip like? How was the waters? Did you guys do anything in between the time you rode and the time you get to the island? Was there music? Is it like a big party? Like, what is that?
Yeah, well, obviously music's blasting. It's 4th of July, man. You know how, everybody's really excited. And we had a lot of people loaded down. So obviously our biggest, we're just trying to make sure everybody, gets out there safe. And so, on the way out there, it was pretty calm. I think it was blowing like 3 or 4 knots. The waters were clear. It was a great day to be on the water. Sunshine, not cloudy at all. And it was a great day to be out there on 4th of July. And so, we followed each other out, and I mean, it was calm. It was calm. On the way back, it was a little more rough, but it was not anything all my buddies' boats couldn't handle, or like it was.
Okay, so not really too much there so far. We'll have to wait for part 2. I'm gonna leave a link to this full video in the description for you guys, because I don't want to play the whole thing, because I want Officer Tatum to get y'all over there so you can support the amazing work that he's doing. We'll stay tuned in for part 2. Let me know what you guys think about this so far in the comments in the chat. Shout out to y'all. I see y'all in the comments, and I get this, but the cell phone thing still, I don't know. I never take my phone with anymore. Oh, post losing at least 2 of them before to the ocean. Yeah, I understand that. Rest in peace to Nolan Wells. Also, everything gets wet in those boating. Yep. Yeah, I understand that. But still, if they were leaving him, why wouldn't he take his phone? Maybe it's because he was intoxicated. Who knows? He definitely seems genuine. Yeah, it's sad, man. They knew each other since early days. Ah, man. Very sad. All right, let's get into the next part of this, because we got a lot to talk about today. We got a lot going on in here. Thank you to everybody who's liked the video. I'm going to ask one last time, if y'all haven't yet, please make sure that you like the video. All right. Amazing work. Officer Tatum. Never. Listen, he went out there and actually put boots on the ground. He was able to get an interview with somebody who wouldn't speak to anyone else. So you got to give that man his respect, man, even if you don't like him. Listen, y'all got to stop letting your dislike for somebody blind you to the objective facts. And the fact is, he went out there and he put in the work. Dang. Drunk and forgot it? It's possible. Imagine being that age and the cost to replace the iPhone. That's fair. You can't even get coverage on that island. Why take it? It's a fair question. But I think another fair question is, why not turn it over to the police? I mean, they cleaned the boat, right? Did they not realize they have Nolan's phone? So you can say all of that. Okay, they didn't leave him his phone. He left it on the boat. That's fine. Why did his mother have to hunt down his phone and figure out where it was? It's just strange. So even if you want to put all that to the side, weren't parts wiped from the phone? Allegedly. I don't know about that. Amy says someone said his lover. What? Okay, I'm not. Hold on a second. Someone said. No, I'm not. I'm not reading that out loud. That is insane. That's crazy. Friend says none of them took their phones, but one they kept it in the dry box. Okay, that's fine. But again, what was the deal with the phone? Why wasn't that turned over to the police or given to his mother? Water and phones don't get along. That's true. The story still doesn't make sense. No 18-year-old is leaving his phone behind. Yeah, I mean, and again, even if he wasn't intoxicated and he said, all right, y'all go ahead, I'll catch up with you later. And he's like, oh, shoot, I left my phone out here. Doesn't make sense. You can't dock a boat on the island. You have to anchor and either swim to shore or have a raft or jet ski to get to shore. Yep, that's a fact. Who said they're going to, who was that? Ducky Dexter said, ClassE, I'm just going to be blind. I don't like him. Hey, listen, I understand. Shout out to the anti-crumpers out there. All right, we got to talk about this new footage. So we're finding out there's been new footage that's released from what happened during the July 4th incident with Nolan Wells. And we're going to get into the pictures. We're going to hear some conversation that was had by one of Nolan Wells' friends. And as we covered in the last video, Officer Tatum is actually interviewing one of Nolan Wells' close friends, someone that is calling themselves Nolan Wells' best friend, and talks about their entire experience and how they spent the days leading up to this together, that day together, and so on and so forth. So shout out to Officer Tatum for that. If y'all want to check that out, you can check him out on X at the Officer Tatum. And we're going to be reviewing part 2 of his interview with Warren at some point. But getting into what happened that day, there's more information about what the friend said, and we're actually going to get into newly released footage from the 4th of July and what happened that day. Now, we have information here from the New York Post that says Nolan Wells' best friend speaks out about being subjected to rumors over Nolan's death. Now, Nolan Wells, a self-described best friend who was on the fateful 4th of July boat trip, was with him before he went missing, has spoken out for the first time about rumors blaming him for the tragic teen's death. Wells, 18, vanished during the visit to Horn Island, 10 miles off Mississippi's Gulf Coast, and was found dead 2 days later. Questions from Wells' parents and online amateur sleuths have dogged the teenage football star's pals about why they left him behind and why they were allegedly in possession of his phone and keys. Speaking for the first time since Wells' death, Warren Hudson, who was among those on the boat trip with him, exclusively told the Post about the hurtful claims that he was responsible for his friend's death. He says, "It's a sick world we're living in," he said. "It's terrible. Nolan was my best friend. There's no facts out, just a lot of rumors. That's just how the internet is today. That's really it. It's horrible." Hudson's mom, Ashley Cole, said in a statement released on July 7th that Wells' friends returned to the mainland after their boat had a problem with its bulge pump. With its pump. Again, Nolan made a decision to stay on the island and return inland later with another group of friends. And that's what she said. That's what his mother said. Cole, a judge in Jackson County, denied claims that her family had been trying to hamper the investigation and said her son had been interviewed by cops and cooperated fully. Wells was laid to rest Monday in a closed casket at a packed hometown funeral that included famed director Spike Lee and former NFL star Terrell Owens. I ask that each of you keep Nolan's memory alive, hold him close in your hearts, share his stories, and never stop saying his name. Grieving mom Christine Wansley said through tears as she stood at the altar before hundreds of mourners at the Centerpoint Church in Ocean Springs. The Reverend Al Sharpton, who officiated the ceremony, announced a $100,000, it's now up to $125,000 reward offered jointly by him and Hollywood filmmaker Tyler Perry for anyone providing information which leads to the arrest and conviction of anyone responsible for Wells' death. On Tuesday, Pro Football Hall of Famer Terrell Owens pledged an additional $25,000 reward, bringing the total to $125,000. The attorney representing the Wells family, Ben Crump, is expected to announce today the preliminary results on the independent autopsy, as we saw in another video. Now, what happened with this video that's been revealed as to what went down and someone seeing Nolan Wells allegedly at the island? Well, check this out from the New York Post as well. It says newly unearthed video may be a final footage of Nolan Wells before he was found dead. New footage appears to show Nolan Wells partying with his friends on the 4th of July and could be the last time he was seen on camera before he was mysteriously found dead days later. A black man who appears to be Wells, 18, can be seen bending over the back of an anchored boat, possibly grabbing a drink. In the short video clip obtained by the outlet that shows revelers celebrating the holiday on Horn Island off the Mississippi coast the day he vanished. The man in the video, whose face is not visible, appears to be wearing a light blue swim trunks similar to the ones Wells was photographed wearing earlier in the day. Now, the person who snapped the video felt confident enough that it could be Wells that he turned it over to investigators probing the college football player's death, the outlet reported. The metadata on the footage reportedly shows the video was recorded around 2:23 p.m. on July 4th. He was last seen on the island around 3 p.m. talking to a girl. GPS data from the boat Wells arrived on at the popular Barrier Island with his pals. The vessel left around 4:30 p.m. NBC News reported that the police said Wells' friends traveled back without him. From what we understand, he chose to stay there, Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter previously told ABC News. The Post has reached out to the Wells family lawyer, the civil rights attorney Ben Crump, for comment on the new footage. The teen's body was found in the water off of Horn Island on July 6. Police say nothing points to foul play, at least yet, and they suspect Wells likely drowned. They are awaiting official autopsy results. Let's look at the video here. So you can see them saying that's allegedly Nolan there. That's a big boat. And they're saying that looks like Nolan there. I think it is. And again, a lot of you guys were pointing this out in the comments and in the chat as well. Obviously, he would have had to leave his phone on the boat because they had to anchor and then get to the island that way by swimming or either taking a jet ski or something over or floating over there either. Again, that makes sense in my opinion as well. But Wells' family is conducting an independent investigation amid what they claim are inconsistencies surrounding the teen's death. Wells' body also underwent an independent autopsy paid for by ex-NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick. Now, we talked about the findings and what they found in the preliminary hearing. If you have not seen that video, make sure you guys check that out where we talked about it. Basically, the medical examiner said, listen, I only have certain pieces of the puzzle here. I can't give you what you're looking for. And the cause of death and the manner of death is undetermined. The only thing we were able to find out is, one, the medical examiner, Dr. Mitchell, does not have access to the lungs and other organs because because of that, he was not able to determine if he drowned. Also, the anterior portion of his neck and some of the bones in his neck are missing. They're not missing, but they're still left, or at the time were with the medical examiners for the local law enforcement. So he doesn't have that, but he was able to see some discoloration and some red area on the soft tissue on the posterior part of the neck, and how that's going to factor into Nolan Wells' death and the manner of death, we'll have to wait and see. Also, here's a new picture that was released as well. It says that the Jackson County Sheriff's Office reportedly received new footage of Horn Island on July, and they give information about what was shown there. It says the police reportedly received July 4th Horn Island video as Nancy Grace applies pressure to Nolan Wells' investigation. We're not going to talk about Nancy Grace today, but we'll get into what was found. In the latest, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office has allegedly received new footage on Horn Island on July 4th. According to TMZ, the video could possibly be the last known image of Nolan Wells. However, what remains unclear is that the footage only shows a man matching Wells' description from a sharp distance. Hours before this update, Nancy Grace began trending as social media users noted her applying pressure to the Nolan Wells case. Additionally, two celebrities have launched a reward fund encouraging anyone with more information to come forward. So again, we'll have to wait and see what this information shows. I want to know what you guys think about this in the comments in the chat as we continue on in reporting on this. Crazy stuff, guys. Wow. What do y'all think? I saw y'all going crazy over there in the chat too. The NAACP. Oh, y'all are talking about the NAACP. We should do a poll on that island. See how many take their phones with them to it. Oh yeah, requires swimming with the phone to get to the island. Again, I mean, you have, what do they call them? The dry bags. You have the bags that you can put your phone in and take it with you. So, I mean, it's possible. I'm sure a lot of people had that out there. What else do we say? I think Amy's saying she sent me something too. Will everyone accept anything other than white boys killing him? I think most people will, if you look at the autopsy. But if there's questions that remain unanswered, then it's questions that remain unanswered. Let's see what Amy says. She says in forensic pathology, establishing drowning as a cause of death is often a diagnosis of exclusion, meaning pathologists look for specific indicators of water inhalation while ruling out the other causes of death, such as trauma, cardiac events, or toxicity. When a person drowns while conscious and breathing, several distinct external and internal autopsy signs are commonly observed. The external ones are froth at the mouth and nares, or it's a certain type of froth, a fine, persistent white or pinkish foam surrounding the mouth and nostrils. This is created when inhaled water mixes with air, mucus, and in the respiratory tract during breathing. And then they have maceration, or it's called, I don't know what that is. It says wrinkling and blanching of the thick skin on the palms and soles. This would indicate prolonged immersion in water, not necessarily that the person was alive when entering the water. Okay, Amy's used goosebumps, they say as well. Contraction of certain muscles in the skin. It's often caused by sudden exposure to cold water or rigor mortis. Debris in hands or under the nails. Weeds, mud, sand, or gravel tightly gripped in the hands, or tightly gripped hands. Okay. Indicating a struggle at the moment of death. So again, there's other internal autopsy findings as well that she noted. Shout out to Amy for getting that. There's too many words in there I can't pronounce, so I'm sure she's going to post it on X. Y'all make sure that you follow her. Only the first autopsy will have all the organs and info. After that, it's all secondhand info. Yep. I agree. So unless they can be in the same room just doing the autopsy together, I don't even know if that's a thing, then it wouldn't really make sense. Come on, E. You know your spidey senses are telling you the truth. Shout out to Pops. Who does it benefit to keep the racism going? Ben Crump. As he gets more clients. Al Sharpton. A lot of people. That's why it exists. They had to swim to the island. The phone was left at the sleepover home, Warren's house. That's not what the story, that's not the story that was being told though. So what happened to the box that they left it in? Y'all are changing. Y'all got to be consistent. Which one was it? We don't know if he drowned or not. That's true. Yeah, y'all got to be consistent. Now we're just going back and forth and with the maybes, which is fine. I think anything's possible at this point. We don't know. We don't know. We got to talk about David. We got to talk about what's going on with this David case. Again, thank you to everybody who's in here. I appreciate y'all showing up and showing out. Got to give you an update on this David case, which is getting wild. It's getting very interesting. This is just a sad situation. I think, I'm going to be honest, I know innocent until proven guilty, but a lot of these preliminary hearings we've been seeing, Tyler Robinson, David in this case, it's not looking great for both of those guys, but we'll talk about it here in a second. David is an absolute monster, allegedly. I mean, I think, well, for messing with the 13-year-old, yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. So I think that's been proven that David is an absolute monster in that sense. Did he kill Celeste Rivas? We'll have to wait and see. So again, we've got to talk about what's going on in this David case. Now that day one of his preliminary hearing has taken place, we're finding out a lot of information about what went down and what was shown in the courtroom. Now, pictures, live tweeting, videos are not allowed in the courtroom during the preliminary hearing, but we've got a lot of people who were actually in the courtroom at the time taking notes that are going to give us some information. And we're going to actually hear from attorneys for Celeste Rivas's family that are going to speak out about this as well. But first, check this out from Fox 11 there in LA. They say David's hearing day one, testimony and graphic evidence presented in court. So what happened here? They say prosecutors allege, actually, let me get into this part. A preliminary hearing began Tuesday for David Anthony Burke, professionally known as Singer David, who faces charges in the murder of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Prosecutors allege the rising star killed the teenager to protect his career after she threatened to expose their illegal intimate relationship the same week his debut album, Withered, was released. The singer and his legal defense team have maintained his innocence. Legal experts expect the preliminary hearing to last for an estimated 3 days. At the conclusion, a judge will determine if there is enough evidence for the singer to stand trial. I'll tell you guys right now, there absolutely is. If convicted on all counts, Burke faces the death penalty or life in prison without the possibility of parole. Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman stated that the decision on whether prosecutors will seek the death penalty will be made at a later date. They have to. They have to in this case. It's a 13-year-old who was abused allegedly by this guy and then was chopped up and placed in a vehicle. I don't think they have a choice, and they're going to have a conversation with the family. Come on, man. Either way. So details from inside the courtroom from Cristina Gonzalez was inside the courtroom and reported that the Rivas Hernandez parents, Jesus Rivas and Mercedes Martinez, were in attendance. They were asked if they would like to leave before the detective's testimony, but both opted to stay. During the testimony, LAPD robbery homicide detective Josh Byers described the scene, the severe decomposition and heavy stench of the body where it was found inside the impounded Tesla on September 8th of 2025. He also detailed the fingers were severed from Rivas Hernandez's hand as graphic evidence photos emerged inside the courtroom, including images of the hand missing fingers. Oh God. And the tattoo on her right index finger. A spectator had to fan the victim's mother because it appeared she was going to faint. I can't imagine. Gonzalez noted that Burke had no reaction and remained nonchalant as the photos were presented. The defense received permission to have his hands free, but he remained shackled to the chair. Photos taken during Burke's April 16, 2026 booking were also presented as exhibits, showing markings on the singer, including of the name Celeste on his left ring finger. This guy's cooked. A tattoo on his right index finger and a religious symbol on his palm. God. Also on Tuesday, body camera video from February 17, 2024 was presented in court. In the video, sheriff's deputy was called to the Hollywood Hills home regarding a missing person report out of Riverside County. Burke claimed to deputies that he only met the teen once at the beach after meeting on social media via Discord from 2020 to 2021. Burke claimed Celeste told him she was 18 as deputies presented her yearbook photo to him. At the time, she was 13 years old. We've got more. Investigators also presented evidence found inside the garage at Burke's home that matched receipts for online and retail purchases made using aliases, including Travion Davis and Victoria Mendez. Evidence detailed a paper trail surrounding the time of the alleged murder. On April 24th of last year, a shovel delivered via Postmates a blue inflatable pool, and it's alleged that some of the pieces from the blue inflatable pool were found on Celeste Rivas's body, but again, that hasn't been confirmed. Fireproof floor mats from Amazon, a Makita chainsaw from Home Depot, which was never recovered. Yikes. A Lowe's mop cleaning system matching one recovered in Burke's garage. Of course, we talked about the burn box and navigation records. An unopened burn box incinerator was found inside and hidden behind a piano in the home. Digital forensics also showed Burke's iPhone, named Tranquilizer, was connected to the Tesla system on July 29th of 2025. The same day, store receipts and the video show him driving the vehicle before parking it near his home on Bluebird Avenue and walking back via an alley. So we've got some questions from the defense and when it comes to how they handled the evidence. I'm not going to get into this. I mean, guys, there's so much here. We're going to hear it from the prosecutors in this case because, again, this is not looking great for David at all. Let's see what the family attorney had to say about this. Shout out to Lauren Conlon for posting this over on X. She says, Patrick Seinfeld, the attorney for the family of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, spoke outside court, noting that David's mother is still searching for a new entertainment attorney for him. According to the testimony from the last witness who worked on the Mogul Vision, I believe, the revelation comes as David faces murder charges and possibility of the death penalty if he's convicted. Check this out.
Hi, Patrick. How are you? How are you doing? It was a rough day.
Is there a place to make a statement around here?
We would love for you to make a statement somewhere. I don't know if there's a podium. Yeah, can you give it to us first?
Yeah. Well, today was an absolutely crushing day in the preliminary hearing. The evidence that was put on by the prosecutor was absolutely damning, showing the images of Celeste's decomposed body in the trunk of the Tesla, and the parents were sitting there, and it was just absolutely horrible. But they wanted to show strength, and they're here for Celeste, but it was extremely bad. And what was disconcerting to me is that David Anthony Burke's mom is still pursuing an attorney for David's musical career. So apparently,
innocent until proven guilty, I guess.
The threat of a lifetime in jail or a potential death penalty is not stopping him. He's pursuing his musical career like nothing happened. And from an attorney, from my perspective, I just thought that was disgusting. And so, if you guys have any questions,
Sirs, can you tell us what the feeling was?
We saw Celeste's mother react. What did they tell you after the fact, after seeing the film?
Well, this is the first time that they've heard this evidence in detail, and they're horrified. There was an image of Celeste's torso and her head in the trunk of the car.
Jeez.
And the prosecutor had to ask what it was, because you could not tell it was a head. It was absolutely, it was deplorable.
That's sad, man.
So they're at a loss of words, and they're just trying to do the best they can.
As parents, sir, when they sit through that, when you don't know what you're looking at, the body's so badly decomposed and severed, what was it like sitting next to them? What were they thinking? What did they do?
That's sad.
Well, Mercedes just put her head down and started crying, and she couldn't look up. And she was warned by the district attorney. Beth Silverman told her in advance, these images are coming. And and I told her that she didn't have to be in the courtroom for this part of the hearing, but she said, I want to be here to show support for Celeste. And she just put her head down and just started crying.
What are we expecting from the next few days then?
Dang.
Well, today was more of a preliminary sort of a hearing. Tomorrow we're really going to get into kind of the gruesome details of the alleged murder.
More gruesome
of
than this.
Do you expect your clients to be here and sit through that tomorrow?
They'll be here. Whether or not they can sit through it remains to be something
Patrick, what
else.
about
I've told them that The problem is once you see an image, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah, that's
encouraged them
wild.
to step out for a short period of time, and they decided no, they wanted to be here to show that they're supporting their daughter, they're supporting the district attorney's office, and they're very grateful for the investigation that the LAPD Rockaway homicide investigators, Byers and Farrell, did. It was just an exhaustive investigation over the last 10
What about
months.
the transfer of assets? Did they have a reaction to that?
Yeah, they had a huge reaction
What was
to
it?
that. Well, they're disgusted. It's just disgusting that they would purposely transfer assets to avoid a potential civil judgment. And
Is that legal?
you can transfer assets for a reasonable cause. You can't transfer assets to avoid a potential civil judgment. And
Yeah.
the last witness,
It's not gonna work.
He's the one that suggested they transfer the assets in order to avoid a civil judgment. And that's exactly what they did.
That's
and
so
the
dumb.
amount of money that we heard about was just unbelievable. And I grossly underestimated David Anthony Burke's net worth. He has millions and millions of dollars. And so it's something that we're going to look at. I'm a wrongful death attorney. And so the family brought me in to look at the potential of bringing a wrongful death claim against David Anthony Burke. So I can't really comment on any of the criminal evidence. That if you have questions about that, best go to Beth Silverman in the district attorney's office.
It seems pretty straightforward at this point too. I mean, this guy was messing around, and that's not allegedly, with a 13-year-old. So at the end of the day, I think this family has a pretty good case at him endangering their daughter and that resulting in death, whoever is responsible for this. So, I mean, that attorney is going to get paid in some way, I believe. Now we're actually going to hear from the prosecutors and what they're thinking moving forward with charges for David, and specifically when it comes to the death penalty versus life without the possibility of parole.
Will be facing a maximum punishment of life without the possibility of parole, or he is also death penalty eligible. The decision on whether or not to seek the death penalty has not been made at this point. Now, the point of a preliminary hearing is somewhat different than you actually perceive in the media, whether it's TV or the movies. Because what often happens in TV or the movies is you go from an immediate arrest into a trial. But in our system and in California in particular, you have an intermediate step. That intermediate step is a preliminary hearing where effectively the prosecution's evidence is going to be tested before a judge, not a jury. The standard that we have to meet is not beyond a reasonable doubt at the preliminary hearing stage. It is probable cause. We are not obligated, nor will we be presenting all the evidence at a preliminary hearing that we will be presenting at a trial to prove David beyond a reasonable doubt guilty of the 3 felony charges of which he has been charged. So at the preliminary hearing, we will call a number of officers. We estimate there will be over 10 different witnesses, both officer testimony, coroner testimony, and there will be individual witnesses as well. And again, we can rely on hearsay and other things that won't be allowed to be relied on in an actual trial. The judge at the end of the presentation of the evidence, and again, this is evidence that can be cross-examined by a defense attorney, and that process has already been begun. At the end of the presentation of all this evidence, the question will be, will David be held to answer on the 3 felony charges? We believe we will more than accomplish the evidentiary burden of probable cause at this point to hold David to answer on these 3 felony charges. At that point, if the judge does hold him to answer, we will file an information that will detail the actual 3 criminal charges. Thereafter, there will be a trial date that will be set, and David, if he so chooses, will proceed to trial. And we will prove at that point, beyond a reasonable doubt, that David committed these 3 crimes. And when, and we do not predict if, when he is convicted, we will then be seeking the sentence that we are allowed to seek by order of the law, and we will let you know in a future date whether or not that sentence will also include the death penalty. So I wanted to take this opportunity as we're starting this preliminary hearing process to explain where the preliminary hearing fits in the process so people can understand as we are presenting evidence and it is being cross-examined what ultimately the standard is for the judge to determine, and that's probable cause, not beyond a reasonable doubt. That is a judge that is doing this determination, not a jury at this point, and that there will subsequently be a trial when the judge holds David to answer on these 3 felony charges. When this preliminary hearing is over, I will come back to address you, and at that point, I will take questions. Thank you very much.
I was muted. My bad. Thank y'all. I keep forgetting. I'll be over here coughing. And I don't want y'all to hear my coughs. Thanks for letting me know. Shout out to y'all. I appreciate it. We got to get up out of here. We'll be back tomorrow with a crazy show for you guys as well. So make sure you stay tuned in and locked in for that. We'll give you more updates when it comes to this David case. And we got some updates we're going to have on Nolan Wells too. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for supporting. Make sure you like the video on your way out. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any time we go live or drop a new video. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. As always, you know what to do. Keep growing, keep pushing, keep it classy. We gone. Peace. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shout out to Pops. Good to see you in here, man.